the fact that you can do it isn't the issue. The issue is that, like most Apple updates, it was automatically installed.
Came out of nowhere.
On everything. Came out of nowhere. Nobody knew that it had happened.
Kind of like the album from U2
exactly.
back in 2016.
Exactly, just like the U2 album.
Mm-hmm.
And what it has done, it has ruined multiple court depositions, a lot of therapy sessions, and a few television appearances from American senators.
Okay.
So
I can't see a world in which it makes any of those things any worse than they already are.
Yes. So I was reading this
good.
article that was just a collection of all these things that have happened where, like somebody's doing air quotes in a therapy session, and then there's like confetti flying everywhere and et cetera. And like John Fetterman did air quotes on an interview, right? And then,
but he's kind of a walking emoji anyway.
He is. He looks like they carved him out of granite.
Yep.
He doesn't look like a real human being. He's an orc.
He looks kind of like the guy, the Baron from Dune.
Like Baron Harkonnen?
Yes. Yeah. He has the same head. He's got the same like neck. Head
no, because Soren Skarsgård or whatever his name is, they've got like it's all like one slug thing. I think there's like a disconcerting, like the problem with John Fetterman's neck is that it's too short in proportion to his whole body, so it's almost like his head is a growth of some sort.
Sure.
But for Soren Skarsgård in Dune, he looks like a slug. He looks like a slugman.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, John Fetterman embarrassed himself on national TV yet again by putting up the quotation marks. So yeah, apparently this is causing a lot of issues, and I can just, it made me start thinking about other situations in which, doing this would cause problems. And a lot of people have been complaining to Zoom and all of this stuff, and Zoom is like, hey, by the way, this is not our fault. This is Apple's fault.
It's baked in. So
it's baked
you could be on a Teams video chat.
Exactly.
Doing like a Discord thing.
You should try this out, by the way.
Yeah, I absolutely.
Next time that you have to talk to a PR firm or do some consulting work.
You're fired.
You're fired. You're fired. You have to do a remote interview, Yeah, so I was just thinking, I imagine that it's going to get more national attention when it happens at like a eulogy or something.
Oh.
Like we're beaming in John's drinking buddy from the army.
Right.
And he's going to say a few words about John Fetterman, I guess. I don't know. He's going to say a few words at John Fetterman's funeral, and it's like, yeah, me and John, we had this running joke where, what we would do is we would shoot civilians, quote unquote, and then you get the confetti goes everywhere and causes a big scene. So no, I the funny thing about that is Apple is not budging on it. Like they reached out people.
This is important.
Yeah.
This is a product we are offering. Everybody should be thankful for it.
The Wall Street Journal reached out to him, and Zoom was like, yeah, we're going to try and figure out a way to deactivate it and et cetera, and all this stuff. And Apple was like, and it's just how it works now. You can turn it off.
Yep.
You can turn it off. Just go turn it off. It's like, nobody knows how to do any of this. I still like, it's hilarious. The iOS has a ton of options. They're impossible to find. It feels like absolutely impossible.
I'm pretty sure everybody who uses Mac, which is myself included, just uses it right out of the box exactly how it comes. Maybe you change your screen brightness. Maybe we got suds everywhere.
We had a party foul already on this episode of Monomaniacs.
Yeah, for those of you listening to the audio podcast, first of all, I am not Dylan Strehle. I am the producer who's usually sequestered over in the producer's
for a good reason.
cell. For good reason. You guys will find out the reason tonight.
If you haven't already found out.
If you haven't already, but there's beer there is a sudsy liquid all over Shadrach Strehle's body.
If you're listening to this because you listened to the most recent episode of Don't Say Adulting, in which I was featured, and you're working your way through the backlog. I don't think that doesn't come out until May sometimes.
It's okay. A lot of backlog.
If you're working your way through the backlog because you really liked my appearance on there, just know this is not a strong example of the show.
In fact, you should skip back a week or forward a week. Just ignore this one completely.
This is just it's a different thing. We're doing this because we love you guys. Hopefully we're gonna mine for some gold here.
Yeah.
We're gonna figure things out.
Yes.
We're not used to this setup, but we're gonna make something work because what I was planning on doing, honestly, and I would have been very interested to see how it would go, is just do it myself.
Monologue
the entire thing, just to see if I could do it.
Yeah.
Because it seems like an insurmountable thing,
Well, Dylan had props, but he did do it. So
He had props and the show was 20 minutes long.
well, it's a monologue.
That's
it's
true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, no,
It's
I mean, there's
difficult.
people who do 3 hours of radio every day.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
sometimes they don't even take callers.
That's a special
So-
talent.
You know, if I prepped a couple articles,
Sure.
you know, really just kind of dug deep.
I think what would probably happen
Yeah.
if you did a monologue and it went past I'd say 20 minutes you can comfortably do. You can do 20 minutes off the dome without a problem. I think if you get to 30, 40, 50, maybe an hour, things might start to become a little unhinged. It might be like I watched a Mr. Beast video
Yeah.
where this guy was locked in a room for I think a week.
Without any external.
No, it was Mr. Beast himself.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah. And so
But he wasn't able to talk to anybody or anything like that?
Correct.
Yeah.
He built a padded cell, and the food was delivered to him at random times throughout the day because they kept messing with him. And so he would try to like set his internal clock based off of when the food, and it would show up when he was sleeping, and he would wake up and it'd be cold, and he would be just like emotionally crushed. But anyway, he built this big, probably 50 by 50 by 50 padded cube.
Yeah.
And then food was delivered to him on a conveyor belt. And he had a shower, he had a bed, and that was literally it.
And no privacy, I imagine. The whole thing being filmed.
There was cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
At one point he went so crazy that he started like throwing his dishes at the cameras to see if he could break them. I mean, he kind of lost his mind a little bit.
That's kind of funny.
That happened after like maybe a day and like 2 days or so.
That's funny to me to be like, and for my next big video,
Yeah.
I'm going to commit a war crime on myself.
Yes. It was a pretty good video though. I mean,
I imagine.
it was
I mean, it
gripping.
caused you to click on a Mr. Beast
absolutely.
video.
And I watched the whole
and
thing.
ostensibly, you're over the age of 12, so
Yeah. Although I will say his last video, and I'm not going to turn this into a Mr. Beast diatribe, I promise. In his last video, he gave a guy a Lamborghini filled with cash and said, "I'm going to have soldiers shoot 10,000 rounds at this. And then I'm going to drop flaming cars onto it. And then I'm going to run a train into it. And you can have my credit card and do whatever you can to physically protect the Lamborghini from all these things happening." It's fantastic.
And
I mean,
I got you really thinking about it.
12 years old, 15, 18, 27 years old. I'm there for it.
So what did the guy do to protect from?
He bought like storage containers. He bought cars, mattresses, and a lot of sand, a lot of like railroad ties and that kind of thing. And he was super smart about it, and he protected it. I'm not convinced it actually survived the drop because they dropped the car as well from like 100 feet in the air, and it landed on like a lot of pillows and stuff, but pretty hard. And so
I don't think that's really something you can protect from.
Then a guy like walked around. He's like, "Yeah, it looks good." And it's like, check the suspensions. Come back.
Well, again, the audience is 12 years old. There's no way they could tell the difference.
It was me and my 5-year-old, and we both enjoyed. I think I enjoyed it more than he did. So it was a good time.
Yeah, I don't think there was enough snap cuts. You know, it wasn't Coco Melon.
Right. Yes.
Speed.
Coco Melon is like crack. It's
yeah. You know, actually,
bad and dangerous for children. It's banned in my house.
Little sister has broken my son's brain in like 2 days.
Yeah. Oh, crazy.
Because she showed him,
Yep.
you know, modern day child programming on his on her phone, and he's like, 9 months old, and he still is like now obsessed with phones.
Yeah.
Like he's looking for them at all times. And
yeah.
It took 2 days. And it wasn't even like, and then I brought it up, and then she sort of kind of soft denied it. And then Becca was like, yeah, at that point she stopped doing the stuff. And it's like, okay, But yeah, now he's just constantly, and if you hide the phone, he freaks out.
Where is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like we're, we try not to be on the phone too much in front of him.
Yeah,
and we're not showing him stuff on the phone.
Right,
But it was just that little bit of
Yep.
hit where he's like, oh,
Yep.
this is something way cooler than reality.
I did not let the older kids watch TV when they were like small. Because when they're small, then you can watch what you want. And so not a big deal. But now it's like the kids are watching cartoons and the baby's laying on the ground just looking at the TV. And he's like, oh, and I was like, oh no, he's too young. This is not okay.
Yeah.
Rachel, turn him the other direction.
Yeah. I don't know. They learn how to snap their neck really quick. So I'll be looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of like an unwinnable battle.
Yep.
In some ways.
It is.
Unless you want to go full Luddite about it.
Right. Right, which I want to play video games and watch TV, so it's a little tough to, entirely keep that out of the household. I don't know. It's a challenge. But I did play, before I came over here, I played some Fortnite with my wife and my kid, and lost a couple times.
Playing triples?
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. How's Jonah at Fortnite?
He's getting better. He's not great at shooting. I think, honestly, the problem is the Switch is a really terrible platform for FPS, and so it's like, I don't think I think there's a ceiling to how good he can get on it. But he's like he's killed people on there before. He's probably
he's committed murder.
Well, I think it's all
against the fish guy,
within like the
John Wick.
Geneva Convention.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I followed this one website that was trying to like track video game violence as a negative effect, and it would track games in which you could break the Geneva Convention. And I'm fairly certain you can do that. And I consider like when like a grenade that makes you dance. I imagine that probably breaks the Geneva Convention in some way. I think that's chemical warfare.
That was invented by the Nazis for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That's got Goebbels written all over it.
It does.
Yeah.
Yep. So
what's in Chug Jug? That sounds like a performance enhancing drug.
That's a PED.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and the current season of Fortnite is called like Myths and Legends or something like that.
That's why Peter Griffin's in it.
No, although I missed the opportunity to unlock the Peter Griffin.
See, that's why I got to finish the battle pass.
I don't do that. I don't.
Yeah.
Play enough, but it's Greek mythology, and I was trying to explain the concept of Greek mythology to my kid.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't think I can do this because I don't have him like totally straightened out with like Christian theology or mythology. So it's a little like I'm still trying to explain to him who like the one true God is.
Yeah, who Jesus is.
And then if I throw in like 12 other gods and like the underworld and Hades and Cerberus.
I feel like when I was his age, I was like looking at books and stuff.
Probably.
Yeah.
Give him another year. Yeah.
I just kind of like lumped him in with superheroes and stuff in my brain.
Right. I didn't. He's in such a formative stage right now.
Just be like, how like Thor,
Yeah.
Imagine if he was like hairier. And then that's the Greek gods.
Yeah. I just didn't want to use the word God because I want to get him like straightened away. On board, understanding. Okay, this is
you don't want him. You don't want him to Luke Robson out about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shout out Luke. So I don't want him going up to pastor and being like, "Oh, like I believe in Zeus now."
That's actually getting a lot more common.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was
coming back. It's a sweet mythology, man.
It is a sweet mythology.
I'd say maybe we could rank the mythologies, but it's a top 5, top 3.
If I had to rank the mythologies, I'd say Greek is definitely up there. I'd say that Norse mythology is way
great.
Overrated.
Oh, okay.
I'd say Norse mythology is massively overrated. Okay. I think that because it's like it went through this age of being kind of cool and edgy.
Yeah.
Now it's just massively overrated.
Okay. All right.
After God of War, it's like, okay, we've seen enough.
Yeah.
No, I'd say Egyptian mythology is so insanely whack that it ranks pretty high.
Yep.
It's got some really insane stuff.
Egyptians up there for sure.
The ancient Chinese got some wild stuff going on. I think that I would probably put them below Hindus though, as far as ancient India has some pretty gnarly mythology stuff.
I would say.
I mean, do you count like Zoroastrianism?
Maybe.
Do you count?
I'm thinking like the Aztecs.
Yeah,
they have
some
wild stuff going on.
Tectoshlotl Badadals.
Yeah.
All the Technochoclitons. Yeah, stuff.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yep.
Yeah. No, I if I had to make a concrete ranking,
do it.
Top five. Number one. Actually, I'd have to start at 5.
Okay.
Mark my way to number 1.
No, that's good.
5 goes to. I'm just going to say Native American.
Okay. Indigenous
peoples.
Which are a lot of mythologies. It's a tapestry.
Exactly. Including the Americas, so South America too. I'm gonna be simultaneously very pro, but also very dismissive.
Yeah.
It's all
very
of them at the same time are 5.
Yeah. It's huge swaths of humans.
4 is going to be Slavic.
Okay.
/ Russian mythology, the Baba Yaga and etc.
John Wick. Yep.
John Wick. Yeah. 3 is going to be Roman. 2 is going to, I think, be Egyptian, and 1 is going to be the lies you tell yourself. So the greatest mythology of all.
You said Romans, but not the Greeks. Or did you actually want to put the Greeks?
Well, so Greeks actually probably should be above Romans.
Yeah,
I was trying to set up a joke, but
yeah.
The Romans are it's diet Greek mythology in a lot of ways. But the thing about the Romans is that they were a little bit more willing to do the whole empire thing, where they're like, actually, all gods are real. And so, like the Greeks, I think, were a little bit more devoted to their individual gods as far as policies were considered. Like they're like, yeah, we are, here in Athens, we worship Athena.
Right.
We acknowledge the other gods exist and all the mythos is real.
This is ours.
This is ours. But the Romans were like, hell yeah, brother. Come on in. We
got a temple over there. We got a temple over there.
Yeah, and even if the Jews weren't didn't agree with it, they did have a shrine to Yahweh.
Yeah,
in the temple and all this stuff. Yeah. So they were really into the everything is true. And
they even had
had house gods. You would worship your specific god in every household. All sorts of stuff. Everything was gods. So it's a little bit more. It's a little less concrete. A little more, loosey goosey. We're all having a good time here.
I still think the fact that the Romans, just kind of swiped it wholesale from the Greeks puts the Romans further down on the list, though. I mean, I feel like you have to have the OGs on there.
Yeah.
But I definitely respect the Romans' commitment to the bit.
That's true. They did actually commit to the bit a lot harder. They were into the rites. They were into the liturgies,
Yeah.
I've talked about this before on the show, but when you declared war in Rome, in Greece, you would be all like, this is Sparta, kick you to a well,
right,
sort of thing. Or at least that's from the history I've gleaned from Zack Snyder's 300. But in ancient Rome, you would literally go and you'd get a bunch of priests together and you go to the border of the country you wanted to invade and you would chuck a spear into it and be like, our gods are now at war.
Nice.
And then you would go and you'd conquer them. Then you'd put their god in your temple. And then it was all hunky-dory. Everybody was so happy after that.
Except for the
Roman rules.
The soldiers that got enslaved at that point.
Yeah, but they'd be happy eventually.
Yeah. I guess that's an advantage of the Roman, the Roman way of life is you could be a slave, work your way up to head slave,
and then die.
or you could have a benefactor who gives you your freedom, or you save up and earn your freedom, become a free man.
That's what they call the Roman dream.
That's right.
Yeah, when the Roman Republic and the Empire fell, both they were like, the Roman dream is dead. You can't do that anymore. Yeah, no. Actually, that's sort of what killed the Republic, is that they started letting people do that. Man.
Yeah, they should have never let people do that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It depends on who you ask, actually, about that. But, there was people with the Roman Republic fell who were like, see, the problem is we let people vote. It all fell apart.
Which,
Which, I mean, there's a lot of, there's grounds for that. But yeah, so this is Monomaniacs, which is a show in which we talk specifically about the ins and outs of the Roman cult, the civic cult of Rome.
And if I'd known that we were going to be talking about that today, I would have brushed up a little bit. I'll be honest.
You would have brushed up a little bit?
Yeah.
So, okay, name your favorite Roman deity.
My favorite Roman deity, I have to translate from Greek. Hang on. It is... Which one's Hades again?
Pluto.
There we go. No, I'm going to say Poseidon. No, that's a Greek. Who's the... I only know the Greeks. I got to translate to the Romans. That's the problem.
It's another planet.
It is Jupiter.
No, that's Zeus.
That's Zeus. Jupiter and Zeus are the same thing.
Yes.
Hades and Pluto are the same thing.
Yes.
Mars is the god of war.
Yes.
Got that one.
Because he's red.
Yeah, got that. No, Venus is a lady, so that doesn't count.
Come on, it's only 9 planets or 8. Because Pluto doesn't count. See, Pluto is
Saturn? No. Neptune.
It is.
Got it.
Neptune.
This has been Greek Roman
This
deity,
has been Josh Lee Pauser.
Digging deep.
This has been Josh Lee Pauser remembers what the planets are.
Yes.
Because apparently grade school didn't stick with him. Blame the homeschooling system.
That's right. I was failed.
No, the problem was that you weren't failed.
There were more planets, and so it kind of threw me for a loop. I had to subtract one.
There was more planet.
Back when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was a lot of complaining about that on Psych, I remember.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. That was a rough day for the really annoying people in your life.
For the nerds in your life,
For the
guys, that's not even fair. There's like 2 other planets that are bigger than, but it's not even fair.
For the Reddit ass kids in your life.
Yeah.
Reddit, for the Reddit people.
Yeah.
It was really a rough time.
I'm glad I wasn't on Reddit in high school. I'd be a worse person by far if I was.
Well, how do you think that would have changed you?
Because it's a terrible place.
You already wore a trilby for a long time.
Well, I think the big issue with Reddit is not like the...
You were too busy being married as a high schooler.
That's almost true.
Yeah.
I think the issue with Reddit is not like the neckbeard cliques you can be a part of, and the different kind of enthusiast niches. I think the issue is like people talking about the worst relationships that you've ever heard of between one human being and another, and reading that and be like, holy cow, this is a possibility.
I think I've officially decided that that's all fabricated.
I think a lot of it is. There's a lot of clout, but it's like, look, if any of this is true, I've lost all hope in mankind.
You can tell when there's a certain level of desperation in the way that somebody's writing, but at the same time, I feel like you can put that on too. Like, I feel like I could write
just a really screwed up.
A screwed up am I the asshole?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Where it's like, I'm me 35 F and my husband 32 M, and then that's like just enough of an age difference where people are like, okay, 3 years at 35, that's odd. He just told me that if I don't let him have sleep with his coworker, then I'm going to have to take the kids and move to Nebraska or something.
But it's because she's disabled from a chronic illness.
Yes, and this is her last wish, is to have sex with my husband.
But she actually cheated on him in the past, but that doesn't matter anymore because she has a chronic illness.
Yes.
It's a tangled
and then you write, you write all that up, and then at the very end,
and then you add some kind of sexual details in there.
Yes,
just to really get those updates.
Yes, to get the updates. You get some. Excuse me, ma'am. Have my Reddit gold, please.
Take my update.
Yeah, for something like that. Yeah, it's just it's all the same. I mean, I don't know. That's sort of what, but it's
bad. It's sludge. It's
sludge.
It's disgusting.
It reminds me honestly of just I don't know. I think it just scratches the same itch mentally as dramatic television.
Yeah.
Or soap operas.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Where it doesn't. There is no substance to it. You're not analyzing anything. You're not losing anything. You're not gaining anything. You're just indulging in that. It's like when you watch YouTube videos about YouTube drama for a fandom that you have nothing to do with.
Yeah, I don't do that so much.
I've done that a lot. Where it'll be like, oh, that these people were talking mad. They were talking, mad goss in the artistic commentary community. And you're like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll watch a 4-hour video about what the goss is like.
Yeah. You and I have different algorithms, but that's okay.
And then I walk out of it and I don't remember a single thing. I don't remember a single noun from the entire interaction, but it's running on, in the background the entire time. My
wife told me, she's like, hey, there's this podcast that I discovered and you should listen to. I was like, is it Monomaniacs? She said, no, it's this other one. It's about these stories that are on Reddit, and they just read them and like react to them. And I'm like, is it from AITA? And she's like, what? I'm like, look, do not cite the deep magic to me, Wish. I was there when it was written.
Yeah.
She's like, these stories are crazy. I'm like, yeah, I know. I just read them so I don't have to listen to 2 white women talk about them.
Yeah, well, you just read them and, they're not real. I don't know.
Right.
I don't. Yeah, Am I the asshole? And then what are some of the other really bad ones? I'm trying to remember because there are some really other terrible ones. It's mostly Am I the Asshole?
Yeah.
Which has sort of become an art form. It's sort of like the 4chan green text or like other stuff like that, where at this point, you never expect it to be real.
Right.
It's more like you understand the memes and the basic structures of it.
I think the art form is, can I write a story convincing enough where can I split the audience?
Yeah.
Where half the people say you're in the right and half the people are in the wrong. And usually it's like something divisive. It's like your mother-in-law is too too involved in your child's life or something like
Yeah,
that.
too
and,
involved
like,
in my child's life.
And so depending on where you fall on
and it's really starting to upset my polycule. You know what I mean?
on a over under age of like,
Yeah.
19 or like 22. So if you're older than 22, you're going to side with the older person. And if you're younger, which most Redditors are like 15 years old,
Yeah.
you're going to be like, this is unjust. And I think the art is being able to get 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Right down the middle and just watch the updates.
I'm sure that because you can get paid off of Reddit, right?
I think so. I mean,
I'm not on the website at all.
I think people
This is the one thing I can hold over Dylan is that Dylan has a Reddit addiction and that I don't.
I think that people can give you gold, but I don't even see that happen that much anymore. And usually the gold just means you get Reddit Premium.
Yeah.
For like a month or something. I don't know.
What comes with Reddit Premium?
I think it's just like ad free and stuff. I don't know.
Does it mark which ones are real and which ones are fake?
That would be helpful. I don't think it knows.
Is it like LinkedIn Premium where you can see who's viewed your account?
I've seriously considered signing up for that.
Dude,
multiple
I've
times.
signed up for LinkedIn Premium.
Yeah.
It's a lie. They lie to you.
Really?
They say that they'll give you like real details
Yeah.
and you like actually sign up for it.
Some
And it's
deets?
still
Yeah.
kind of fuzzy. They
So-
don't want to be super direct.
Have you ever done the thing, like if you're hunting for a job,
Yeah.
where you post something and then it'll show you like the top 2 people by name that looked at your post or viewed your profile.
Yeah.
And then it'll show like another person and be like, this person at this company. And it's like blurred out. And you'd be like, well, and then you go to the company and you're like, okay, who has this job description? Okay, does that kind of blurred out picture match the one that I saw?
Yeah.
And you'd be like, this person saw it. You ever done that before?
Yeah, I don't know. I
It's
remember the last time I was looking for work and I did sort of I did turn into a bit of into a goblin about that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But
you can be desperate and bored enough that you're like,
yeah, LinkedIn is
they
its
looked at
own.
it again. Oh, they like told their coworker about it, and then she looked at my profile.
I've always wondered about LinkedIn, where because some people will still assure you that you definitely need one and you need to be active on it, and you do better with LinkedIn than I do because I don't think I've ever once posted on LinkedIn, which I honestly should because I have stuff I could post on LinkedIn and it wouldn't be like a big deal.
It's one of those things where you only post on LinkedIn if you need to be posting on LinkedIn. At a specific time. You know what I mean? It's like if there's a purpose for you being like, oh, I'm around on here now.
Yeah, I frankly just don't get it, and I don't like it because now people ask you to apply through LinkedIn or whatever, where they're like, oh yeah, use the job portal that just sends you to Indeed anyway or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, applying for jobs nowadays is an absolute, and I'm not saying this because I am currently applying for jobs. I am not. I am happy where I work. But
me too.
in case anybody there was listening, no, that's a joke. But back when I was applying for jobs, the fact that you have to fill out your information,
it's exhausting,
in multiple portals
it's
every time.
demoralizing.
It's
It's a little different.
And it's not like an actual job application where they ask you what you need to know. It also requires all the information that the random job board website needs you to know. And then you have to import all your BS into the job port website. And then they'll ask you for it all again anyway, It's like, why do you even write resumes anymore when you have to fill out your resume every time you apply for a
job? I have to put
job?
my education in here and on my resume?
Yeah, I don't know. It's out of control, but
yeah,
I don't know. This is something that's been talked to.
It's the worst. It's demoralizing. Everybody hates it. Everybody has to do it because everybody's desperate. So apparently the job market right now is terrible.
Yeah, apparently.
That's what I've heard.
I don't know. I saw the other day.
For people on Reddit mostly.
Yeah, I imagine. But they're
who are probably there because they're unemployed.
Yeah, well, people on Reddit don't believe you should ever have a job. Mm-hmm. That's something that I've always thought was really funny about the anti-work movement.
Dude, I had to block that. I can't read them anymore.
The anti-work movement, and like every once in a while on Facebook, I'll get like something that'll pop up. It'll be from some sort of anarchist Facebook group, and it'll be like, "Wow, having a job, period, bad." And you're like, "Okay, something's got to give here. This is not tenable."
Usually, it's like, "Can you believe my employer made me do X, Y, and Z, which sound like job duties, and won't let me do A, B, and C, which sound like things you're not allowed to do at a job?"
Yeah,
and it's like, "Can you believe this?" And it's like, how did you get the job in the first place?
We can't believe this.
No.
Yeah, it's I don't know. The expectations around work have changed so drastically since the pandemic. And to say we've all like kind of weirdly tacitly benefited from it. but at the same time,
Right.
it has made life infinitely worse.
Yes.
I don't know. It's going to be weird in 5-10 years when you're going to be able to talk to somebody and be like, oh yeah, back in the day, you could just go to the doctor next week. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you could make an appointment for a week from now and go to the doctor. That used to be a thing you could just do.
Yeah.
Now you can't anymore. It's just not possible.
Well,
Especially if you're seeing a specialist.
Oh, sure. Oh,
yeah, it's like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
4 or 5 months everywhere.
And I feel
never
like
used to be the case.
half the time, once you get to the specialist, your kid who you're taking to the specialist doesn't have the problem that they had
anymore.
before.
Yeah,
and you're
well,
like, well, now I'm going to pay for this.
I had a lot of really bad health problems that started during the pandemic, and I'd be like, I can't imagine being alive in 4.5 months. It's like, why we gotta just do this? We gotta wait for 4.5 months. And the same thing with like, this. Have you noticed with fast food places? I don't really go to fast food often. I don't know. I probably go more than I should. But driving on Carlton, like they now have people in multiple lines. Have you seen this? Where they're having everybody pull up after they order and pay, and then pull forward. Yeah. I think that just wasn't a thing before.
That's true.
Yeah. And like only in extraneous circumstances would you ever do that. I worked in fast food. Like only in extreme circumstances, if like you're like, hey, we had to put your food in the fryer right now. It's
chicken
gonna be
is not actually
5
done.
minutes. Yeah, but now
you got the chicken. I told you.
Everybody's constant. Everything is super long. I don't know. It's just weird. Like the basic things in the service industry just don't work anymore. Hours are totally different now. It's gonna be strange because it's like, yes, my son, you used to be able to go to a restaurant. They used to have 24-hour fast food restaurants.
That's right.
They just don't. It's not a thing anymore. And maybe that's for the best. Maybe that's for the good of all things.
It is a detriment to society that the only place open around here, if you want to go late, you can go to Taco Bell.
Yeah, but
and I think
they close at like 11.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think they're open until midnight sometimes. I don't know.
It's weird. If you're out having...
and this is, definitely, I'm speaking as a person who isn't working in a job like that anymore.
Right.
These people are serving me.
But you've done your time.
I have done my time.
Yeah.
I did work until 1 a.m.
Yeah.
For 2 years at a place like that to make sure that, fat slobs who are now the ones making the decisions like that
That's right.
Could eat all of the Dairy Queen that they desired.
I love
Dairy Queen. Now that I'm becoming a fat slob who wishes to eat all the Dairy Queen I desire,
full circle is what you're saying?
It'd be really nice if I could do so at 1 a.m. It would be really pleasant, but
it is really hard now. And I was talking to my boss about this the other day, and it's weird because he and I are a generation apart. We're about 10 years apart. And yet when I talk to him, I very much feel like we are two old men complaining about the youth. Because for some reason, it seems like things change where if you're trying to get young, cheap labor to do stuff, and like the field that I work in, I think most people would consider to be kind of cool. Like we do, we shoot videos and there's cool cameras and cool lights. And it's like, it's something that's conventionally kind of fun. And I enjoy doing it. And trying to get students or trying to get young local people to like engage with that. It's like, look, I can pay you whatever the McDonald's is, and you can work like normal hours and learn fun stuff and be in a relaxed atmosphere, and I'll, pick up lunch every other day for you. And then they just don't show up. It's happened today. They just don't show up. And it's like, this is the cushest job you can imagine.
Yeah.
If you're 20 years old and you're just hanging around and I'm like, hey, I need you to work 8 hours and carry stands and lights around. And it's laid back and it's like, do you want to go do those other jobs? And so, I think if you don't need the money, you don't want to do the job. And I think back when we were in high school, even if you didn't need the money, you still had a job because you wanted the money, or you felt like you needed to have it. You felt like you needed something to do in the summer, or you wanted some spending money, or you got an internship because you wanted some experience with something. And now it's like, unless I'm desperate, I'm just not going to do it. And then even
here's the thing though, is that right now it's working for people. Like
I think that's the problem.
Well, part of it is that I think that people have discovered that a lot of the threats that have traditionally existed in the economy to force you into doing, low skill labor, are empty.
Yeah.
Or like they're on like a good example would be credit card debt. Or right now people are racking up record credit card debt.
Yeah.
And the thing is unlike, any other time historically where that form of credit has existed, they don't feel any obligation to pay it.
Right.
They're just like, whatever, because our credit sucks anyway.
Right.
It's like credit's already bad.
I don't need good credit to buy a house.
You don't,
because it's never going to be good.
It's never going to be good.
A house.
Yeah,
and so
I mean, unless you're living in New York City, you don't need to do a credit check to get an apartment.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, if I'm never buying a house, if I'm never buying a car, it's like, okay, why does it matter what my credit's like?
Yeah.
It's like people are just racking up huge credit card debt, refusing to pay it, letting it go over their credit totals, and then if things get really bad, you just declare bankruptcy. So what? Your credit's bad for 3 years. It's like
and then
it's always going to be bad.
Goes away and start over again. Yeah.
So it's a very strange situation because people are like, okay, we can keep milking the thing because it's not going to change my quality of life. And I think part of the reason that it's like this is because the degrees of separation between quality of life are now not what they used to be.
Very narrow.
Because as long as you've got an internet connection,
which everybody does,
your quality of life is comparable to a vast majority of other people because you have access to all the entertainment, and all of the information,
better than most of the rest of the world.
Better than most of the rest of the world. And so it's like, you're not talking about degrees of your quality of your domestic goods, or you're not like fighting for a better dishwasher or something along those lines because you don't really care as much about that stuff anymore. And as long as you've got what you need, you're fine. You've got your Reddits where you can post on anti-work about how you're in huge credit card debt and you don't care. And you're living it up. You're as happy as a clam, as long as you can afford a Steam summer sale every once in a while.
Reading that kind of anti-work content turns you into a boomer so fast. They're like, I do this low skill, no skill job, and I'm only making $16.50 an hour, and I believe, and that's not even a living wage. I can't afford this. I can't afford this, and I can't afford my apartment. I can't afford my dog, and I can't afford my other dog. And it's like,
and
they're like, I should be making at least $30 an hour, and I'm like. And I just feel myself turning into my father in 2004,
Well, this is just the nature of
George Bush.
This is the nature of things. This is why, there's that generational anger. But the thing is that, I don't know, most of the people who are actually posting on that forum are in their 30s. I'm going to tell you right now. They're guys who had a punk band through their 20s. And then now they have to have a real
life just
job.
didn't work out.
Life didn't work out. And so they're just posting very angrily.
Yeah.
And, that's just the nature of it. It's strange how, you can get yourself into this mindset. And I'm not saying that I'm kind of immune from this, but where you're like, okay, I'm officially just going to become rageful at these externals.
At the machine, at the man.
At the machine, at the man. And just be kind of under the impression that I'm the victim of some sort of great and crazy.
It's not that hard to fall into that mindset on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I find where I'll get ticked over some small thing at the office, and it'll be like, why do they do this to me? Why am I being treated like this? And then I just have to kind of slap myself in the face and be like, you have it so easy, you stupid idiot. Shut your mouth, do your job. You're probably just hungry. Have some beef jerky, and then I have some beef jerky, and I feel better. So,
but then sometimes there's no freaking beef jerky in the fridge. Life can be really tough sometimes when you go upstairs to try and get some beef jerky and there's no beef jerky.
We have some secret snacks over in the studio if you want to come dip in.
I don't think you should have said that over a camera. Because as we know, our coworkers listen to this show.
I've mentioned this show to many of my coworkers, and none of them showed the slightest interest in it.
Yes,
and I think that's a good thing, and I appreciate that. So if you do,
probably for the best.
If you are one of my coworkers who works with me and watches this show, I'm shocked. Thank you for your support. You should probably turn it off now, though.
I've actually been going through a bit of a deep dive into our backlog lately.
Okay.
Because we have I had that podcast appearance, which is going to be coming out in May. And so I'm like, okay, I imagine we're going to have a few more eyes on it. So I was listening to episodes that they most likely will listen to. I'm in communication with some people to be guests on the show. And, they've been telling me that they've been listening to the show. So
nice.
I've been kind of listening back to some stuff, just sort of seeing the stuff that they've been listening to and whatnot. And I feel like the show has had some insanely good episodes.
Yeah.
I was really surprised, honestly, because sometimes I have a really negative view of how the show is sometimes and the quality of certain episodes, and then I'll go back and listen to them and be like, damn. Like I listened back to the Brant and Sammy episode.
Yeah.
That episode is a heater, an absolute heater. It is hilarious. If you have
not listened to it, go back and listen to it.
If you have yet to listen to that episode, it's the Gen Z slang quiz.
That was a good
episode.
one.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
That episode is an absolute heater and stuff. So I was listening back to, and it makes me, because I've been thinking a lot about this podcast and thinking a lot about podcasting because I was on a podcast where I talked about podcasting, and I take a drink every time I say podcast.
I'm slammed.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I'm like, wow, honestly, I think that this show, and I know that if you're here this long on the Josh and Shad episode, hopefully
you're a diehard.
You're the kind of person who's curious about what I have to think about this show, or
they're just waiting for me to screw up even bigger than with the Neptune thing.
Yes.
So. Don't worry. There's more where that came from.
I feel like a lot of best practices with how you grow a show and make it kind of a bigger thing are things that we have never done. And so it's a strange thing because I was like on this show saying, okay, so if you want to like develop an audience properly and you want to do all these things, I was like, okay, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And I'm like, wow. This is definitely a do as I say, not as I do situation when it comes to Monomaniacs because, luckily we have a good core group of people who really love the work that we do and are really generous with their donations on Patreon, who kind of keep this thing going. And we're very happy for them, and I feel like this is as time as any to thank our top patrons.
Yes.
That being Sammy Roberts, Joe Papalardo, and Zach and Amber Strehle. If you're interested in supporting us on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/monomaniacspod. There you can find our backlog of extra shows, which I'm starting to wonder if we should start gatekeeping the old episodes of the show as behind a paywall, but that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, so we have a lot of great content back there. Also, if you got a shirt,
that's what I was about to mention. Is that if you about once a year or so we do a shipment of shirts. I'm not promising this
for next year,
legal sense, but we have a massive box behind me on the desk.
We've been talking about this for like 3 weeks now. They're going out tomorrow, so we're recording this on a Monday night. They're going out this Tuesday,
so you get them this week probably.
Yeah, you'll probably get them this week. Who knows? We'll see. If you're like in Washington State or Colorado, like a couple of the people who subscribe, I might be a little bit longer, but you should be getting it.
They're sweet T-shirts.
They are. Yeah, Josh saw them today for the first time
because
he has not been in the studio for 3 weeks. He had a lot of work to do.
I did.
He had a really important excuse.
Working nights.
One thing that I talk about a lot on that podcast is one thing that really helps grow a show is consistency. So put that in the panel of things that we don't do properly. One thing actually we do, we make sure that the show comes out at the same time.
Yeah.
Every week.
Yep.
Which is not something that many podcasts are able to do. So, there is a lot of consistency there.
I think episodes we've missed that were not because of a major holiday, you could probably count on one hand.
Yes.
It's been very, very few, usually due to illness or something like that.
But illness or et cetera. So
it's never just because we don't want to do it.
And I don't think we're going to miss... I'm going to probably... Well, it depends on if Dylan has the cojones to record an episode the week after Easter. I'm fine recording during Holy Week, but
I'm
going to be gone the week after Easter.
I don't think. Are you talking about like a religious reason?
No, I'm going to be gone. I'm just saying.
By himself. I was like, I don't think Presbyterians have an issue with recording the week after Easter.
Yeah, you're like the week after Easter.
I cannot think of anything that would conflict with that.
Yeah. So no. So we're gonna keep this boy rolling, as it were. But
This episode is sponsored by
Don't say it. Don't say it. They didn't pay us.
Rudu Vanger.
Yeah, no. We happen to be enjoying
CJ's IPA.
Non-alcoholic near beers that
Yes.
look like actual beers.
Almost, it's imperceptibly,
imperceptibly different.
Makes
Actually,
us feel just as good.
speaking of non-alcoholic near beers, our sponsor for the show. Actually, no, we don't have a sponsor. I'm just joking. But
We should get a sponsor.
if
If you'd like to sponsor the show, reach out to us. Our answer for any amount of money will be yes.
I was watching a video today about this this big scam that happened last year, where this company called Cast Media was doing like middleman stuff for selling ads for podcasts.
Yeah.
And they would do development contracts where they would give minimum guarantees.
Okay.
So if they wanted to secure talent for the network so that they could sell the network, which was their ultimate plan. But they would offer, they were like, yeah, at the low end, they'd give them like $250,000 a year guarantee. It's like, man. If we got that check, that'd be awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that's never going to, who knows?
That'd be awesome.
One thing that podcast statistics bear out is that once your show really starts picking up after 100 episodes. So the show really starts picking up.
Couldn't even say it with a straight face.
No, that's actually true though.
Is it?
Yeah, statistically, if a show is not natively popular, as in the hosts aren't famous or you don't have like a developed promotional apparatus because you're a real media company or something along those lines, it's usually after the 100 episode mark when it starts to either kind of move in one direction or the other.
I think usually that's the point where the fans are like, don't listen to anything before that. It was all garbage. Like, this is the good stuff. You got to start at episode 100.
Well, that requires developmental mindset on the part of the hosts and the show.
Yeah.
So
that sounds fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Anyway.
Yeah, I was one statistic that was very, very hilarious that I saw was that podcasts don't make it. 48% of podcasts make it to 8 episodes. 48% of podcasts can have 8 episodes.
I guess that's not that surprising, but
yeah,
more than half don't make it to 8. But like,
yeah,
who are you polling to get that information?
Well, that's not a poll. That's all based off of like internal numbers that are gleaned from hosts.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's hard data.
That's hard data. So it's about 48%, and then like something like 10% make it to 50.
Oh man.
And something like 5%.
We are the 3%ers.
Yeah. by hitting 100 episodes in a few weeks, we're going to be, in the top echelon of podcasts.
Yes.
And considering that hundreds of podcasts get started a week,
mostly by 2 white dudes in a room kind of like this, I would think.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day a lot about art and a lot about where people find their personal expression and their happiness from.
I just find it from movies by Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah. By watching
that's it.
The film Arrival.
Yes.
Or the film Dune.
Or
Dune
2
Part 2.
Yeah.
Or
Sicario. Actually, haven't seen that.
Or Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. Or apparently Prisoners.
Yes.
Is like a hit. I haven't seen it. Have you watched it?
It's good.
Okay.
Enemy.
Right. Okay.
And that's another Denis movie that's awesome.
Yeah.
Love Enemy. I wish you would, because Jake Gyllenhaal is in Enemy and in Prisoners.
Okay.
And I'm waiting for the Denis return of Jake Gyllenhaal in Dune 3.
Who will he play?
I hope he plays
Messiah?
one of the navigators. I hope he plays a fish person.
Totally unrecognizable.
Totally unrecognizable, deformed Jake Gyllenhaal.
Just cracked out on spice. Yeah, I think he's too kind of creepy hot in most of the stuff he's in.
Yeah. You ever seen Nightcrawler?
Nightcrawler's fantastic.
That's a great movie.
That's a favorite. Yeah. Yeah, but he's got this kind of manic, like creepy, or he played a very, I think, forgettable role, although not his fault in Spider-Man Far From Home. So
when he played Mysterio,
yeah, like a weird version of Mysterio,
or he's like an influencer or whatever, or he's like a tech bro. What's his thing? I haven't seen.
I
That
don't.
movie.
I've seen it like 3 times. Again,
I have not seen a.
I said forgettable.
I have not seen a Marvel movie since the original Black Panther.
Since the original Black Panther.
Yeah.
No.
It's because I'm better than you. It's because I'm better than you. I'm better than the audience. I've ascended. I am on a different plane of existence. The only media I consume is 4-hour-long YouTube essays about drama that I have nothing to do with, nor will I remember in 5 minutes after I watch it. It's crazy how I will sit there and think to myself, man, I don't have the time to watch a movie. And then I'll watch
just
all this
just
BS.
Mindless.
Yeah, it's
mindless
like,
drivel.
because I have a dual monitor set up at work and I'll do busy work. And I'm doing busy work on one screen and I'm listening to / watching a 4-hour-long YouTube documentary about drama for which I do not participate in. And if my boss...
That's acceptable, though, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, yes.
And my boss walks by and I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. He's like, fine, I have it in the little window.
Yeah.
And I'm fully committed to my work. I'm doing my work. I'm doing it well.
Yeah.
This is just playing in the background.
Thank you.
If I had an actual real-ass movie playing, that would be problematic. It would be weird.
If I
was watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy on one of my screens and working on the other one, that would cause concern. It would cause a question, which is what's so strange about it. If I'm streaming somebody playing a video game or something, that's whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm playing a video game on one screen,
if you were watching Ricky Stenicki starring John Cena, I watched the first chunk of that the other night until one of my kids freaked out, and then I wasn't able to watch it anymore.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is a classic. It's on maybe Prime or something. I think it's on Amazon.
It's Zac Efron,
Andrew Santino.
Andrew Santino
is the comedian, decent actor.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, he's fine. And then some other guy that I did not recognize. But it's a movie that like 10 years ago would have been a summer comedy blockbuster and made like a bunch of money, and now they just dump it on Prime, and it's a full, like, kind of like a raunchy comedy. John Cena is a great comic actor. He's very good. He's hilarious, and cast is good, and the central conceit is like kind of fun. And I was like, it's a shame that these kind of movies, which I really enjoyed, like when I was in college, are just passing me by because I don't happen to bump into them on the Amazon Prime marquee.
I feel like the last movie like that came out was Blockers. Remember that?
I remember Blockers. I didn't watch it. I'm thinking maybe Tag. Do you remember Tag?
Yeah, with Hannibal Buress.
It's like a stack.
Jeremy Renner.
John Hamm.
But Jeremy Renner was one of the guys in Tag, right?
John Hamm was in it.
Hannibal Buress.
Not Jake Johnson. Some other like comic guy.
But that movie wasn't raunchy, was it?
No.
It wasn't
not like a raunchy comedy.
Yeah, it wasn't like a raunchy comedy.
But like Horrible Bosses or something like that.
Yeah.
Those are funny movies, and we just don't get that kind of thing. Instead
we get Dune 2.
Dune 2, that's okay.
Yeah.
Instead we get a TV show of Ted.
Yeah.
Which is bad. And I watched it and I was like, oh, this does not capture the magic of the original.
Yeah. It's wild.
Even though apparently they spent a lot of money on the bear.
I imagine that the CGI bear, I imagine, was incredibly expensive.
Yeah. Every scene.
Did Seth MacFarlane voice the CGI bear?
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
I want to say he like directs the show. I mean, like, it's his thing.
It's about his childhood or whatever. Because isn't the movie
the
original Ted was supposed to be sort of about him?
Yep.
Being just
something
a
like
stoner
that.
loser.
I watched an episode.
Is it Mark Wahlberg? Who's in Ted? The original movie.
I think it's Mark Wahlberg. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
So this, like, the fat Italian kid who plays young Mark Wahlberg in the Ted TV show?
I honestly didn't bother to try to figure out what the connection was. I was just like, oh, it's Ted in a different context. And
a 70s childhood.
I think so. Yeah. But like bad. Like the writing's not good. You know?
I mean, it is television.
Yeah.
I mean, Young Sheldon is one of the highest rated television shows right now.
Comedy.
Very funny.
That's Mark Norman. Norman for you.
Yeah, no, I got that. That
Give
was
it a
hard.
goog.
It's really funny when you like. It's very hard to realize when you're our age and your interaction with the internet is stuff like Reddit or Twitter or whatnot, because for a vast majority of Americans who still watch terrestrial television, it's a totally different world.
Yeah.
Like Chicago PD and Chicago FD and,
Chicago
ER or whatever it's called, right?
Yeah. EMS or something.
I mean, those are like some of the biggest shows in the world.
Yeah.
Like people love that stuff,
Yeah.
and people love The Big Bang Theory. People love Young Sheldon.
Yep.
These are shows that are racking up massive viewership numbers in comparison to and like when people talk about stuff being massive hits on streaming services or massive hits, even on cable.
Yeah, those are
it's
all
nothing compared to
fake numbers too.
I think like less than 200,000 people have watched Succession.
There's no way that's true.
I think so.
There's no way.
The year it won its Emmys, I think so. It was. It's like it was not. Nobody watched.
Blew up after that.
Yeah, maybe.
I imagine it's very good.
Yeah, no, it's a good show. But from what I've heard, like the actual amount of people who've watched that stuff or something like White Lotus or anything along those lines, it's fairly small.
Yeah.
In comparison to what a vast majority of Americans are watching, which is like Blue Bloods.
Yeah.
Which is that still on?
I don't know. I think my dad. I don't remember everything that he tells me. I'll be honest, but he did say like I can't wait for the next season of like Bosch to come back or something. You should watch it. And I'm like, Dad, I don't really like cop and crime shows. He's like,
yeah,
that's. I mean everything.
Yeah.
Like the streaming services that he purchases are the ones that have like Bosch, Blue Bloods.
Is he a Yellowstone guy?
No, I think it has too much language in it for him.
Yeah.
I think he might have watched it. I don't know. If he watches all of something and doesn't recommend it to me, I know that it has like content in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah, Yellowstone is hilarious because it just kind of blows.
Yeah.
But like
everybody's raving about it.
Everybody loves it. And I think people love it because honestly, I don't know, because it's not like
it's probably an aesthetic thing,
people
right?
have claimed that it's like right wing.
Yeah, sure.
But then like it's not.
Is that
I don't know. I think it's
just because it's like white people out west with guns? Is that?
No, I think it's just because it's an old guy kicking ass.
Yeah.
And I think that old guys just want to watch a show where there's a dude who doesn't give it, doesn't put up with the bullshit. I really like that Kevin Costner guy. He might say some stuff I don't really agree with, but he really doesn't put up with the bullshit.
Hard to argue.
It's a wild show though, because like, I'll see sub clips where it's like, oh yeah, there's this woman in a college classroom like owning the professor who's like sexist, and then like another clip where it's like, and then we had to kill these bikers who like. Are trying to take our land.
Yeah.
Like the show is just about him killing people who are trying to take his land. And they do like all these extrajudicial murders and all this stuff to like protect their ranch. And I'm like, what? Are people like constantly trying to encroach on people's ranch land? Is that like a thing that happens?
Must be.
I know that there's and I know that every like 10 years or so, a bunch of farmers in Wyoming declare independence or whatever.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I didn't know that you had to worry about biker gangs taking your land.
I did watch a lot of seasons of Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, were they really into taking ranchers' land?
No,
in that show?
mostly into being racist.
Oh, really?
That's a trope. Of
as in racing?
Gangs. No, surprisingly, they didn't really race their motorcycles at all.
Okay.
No, they kind of drove them around slowly most of the time.
They cruised.
They cruise. They're cruisers.
They're into cruising.
They're
cruising.
Usually, it's like the white biker gang. There's a subplot in SOA where one of the gang members is Hispanic.
Yeah.
Which is okay in the white gang. They're cool with it. He's got like a nickname and it's fun.
Yeah.
And then he like finds out that his dad is actually black, and he is worried because he thinks that if he tells the rest of the gang, who are the heroes of the story,
that they'll kick him out of the SOA.
No, they'll kill him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so those are the dynamics that you're working with in SOA. Yeah. And then one guy leaves the club and they catch him, and everybody has like the club seal tattooed on their entire back,
and they cut it off him.
They burn it off of. They
Wow.
sear it off of him, and you're watching this, and you're like, why are me and my wife so into this show right now? But we watched like 5 seasons.
Well,
it's crazy.
And there's a spinoff, right, called Aztecs, which is about a Hispanic gang.
No, the Mayans.
Oh, the Mayans.
Mayans.
Is what it's called.
Yeah,
the Mayans.
Who are in SOA as well. It's all racially divided.
Yes.
Which
like a prison yard.
Exactly, because most of them were in prison.
Yes.
I think it's realistic. I think it's a true story.
That's how it works in most gangs and stuff. Isn't one thing that I know this is going to sound like a weird thing that I know about Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
But I heard that the creator of the show is in the show.
Oh, I don't even know this.
Yeah. He's the guy who gets like in the first season gets like I guess how do I say this? Attacked in prison.
Okay.
That's like the creator of the show. Like he writes himself into the show.
He's like, first of all, I'm in prison. Like, cool.
Yeah.
What happens to me in prison? Oh
yeah. He's like, oh, I'm writing the show. And then my character drops the soap. And you're like, what the heck, dude?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Are you trying to like get around the problem of like, oh, I'm putting myself in my own show?
Yeah.
Trust me, man. I'm not a self-insert. I'm not going to be a badass. I'm going to be in the most compromised position humanly possible.
I'm not a self-insert. Yeah. It's messed up. It's it's gruesome. It's got some very, very dark stuff in it. I don't think anybody should watch it. It's not a good show. It's very violent. But like when the guy jumps on the motorcycle with his long hair and he lights his cigarette and goes off to beat somebody with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
It's interesting thing to think about the prison yard though. The prison yard, kind of phenomenon is a complicated one because you don't want to be a white supremacist.
Yeah.
You've been a good,
a good boy your entire life.
Good. You've been conscious,
Yeah.
of like the racial disparities, and you've tried to treat everybody with respect your whole life.
And then you're in prison in
and
California.
then you do a little white collar crime. You end up in prison. You're like, oh, I'm a white supremacist now. I got to get a swastika on me because I need protection.
in like 3 states.
I don't know.
From what I've heard, it's like
I just assume that's how it is everywhere.
No. You're like, oh man, too bad. I guess I gotta get a
So who's the tattoo guy in here?
Whoa. Yeah, no, it's like California. I think like Texas and maybe Colorado.
Okay.
Where they're like, if you don't roll with your race, then you have problems.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I feel like in any kind of like prison where you're in for a stint, I think there's those kind of sensitivities kind of bubble to the top. But maybe if you're cool, you're allowed to be a loner. Problem is, I'm not cool. Me particularly, I'd have to align with somebody right off the bat.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd end up in a bad place.
The funny thing about prison is that everybody kind of tries to like mythologize it and being like, whoa, it's like, man, it's so like dark and badass. It's like, it's just being at summer camp with the worst people who've ever lived.
Which is not that different from being a summer camp.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like, it's like, but you're going to kick my ass? Like, we're all in here together. Like, why are we turning this into I understand like that there's all this power dynamic stuff, but it's like, okay, I was reading this article the other day about how at a certain IQ level, people cease to have empathy because they can't imagine another human being having thoughts.
I assume this is an IQ that's too low. Not too
yes,
high.
Exactly. Yeah, no,
just had to clarify that.
You start to think like, oh, the world is just my reality because you can't like mentally escape your own reality.
Sure.
Right. And that's part of the reason why like people like
I think that's how my 2 younger kids are right now.
Yeah. But like, like sometimes people will you'd be like, you're a grown adult and you're acting, and it'll be somebody who's usually they're like a criminal or somebody who's like really kind of on the wrong side of life. And it's a very tragic situation that they're in. But like you can't think that other people, including your family and friends who love you, like even have emotions if you're acting this way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And all those people are in prison. You know what I mean? So it's just like a world in which the basics of how human beings should think and act are just sort of thrown to the wayside. And it's a terrible situation that we put people in, for sure.
That's why if you're going to commit like a federal crime, you got to go white collar because you might end up in one of like the nice ones, You know,
How do you move to Norway?
Yeah, it's like
Commit a murder in Norway.
you get an apartment.
Yeah.
It's nice. I'd imagine the food is pretty decent.
No, it sort of looks like you're at summer camp. I saw some footage the other day from a Norwegian prison, and I was like, wow, that just looks like, you have a bunk bed. It's like a dorm. You know,
Yeah.
You've got your bunk bed underneath it. You got a desk. You've got a computer.
Yeah,
you know,
it was nicer than our dorms in
college.
college.
You can play Might and Magic 3 and compose music. And,
I think it's and that particular prison experience is often kind of exalted by the American left. Like, this is what our prison should be like. It's like, if our prisons, we have so many people in our prisons that if they were like this, the entire state of New Mexico would just be filled with these like condos because it's too big. It's too much space.
I wonder how high the bid would have to be for a state to be like, we'll be the jail.
Australia 2.0.
Yeah. There's Escape from New York. Have you ever seen that film?
No, I haven't.
It's a great movie. John Carpenter starring Kurt Russell. Like all good John Carpenter movies, except for maybe, like Halloween. But
okay.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, the crime never stopped. The crime wave has just been blowing up since 1975. It's never gone down. So New York just decided it's a prison now. And so we just put all prisoners on New York. Yeah. Manhattan is now a giant prison.
Yeah.
And so maybe,
I think that's basically the plot of like most Batman movies.
Is it like Gotham is just
or like Arkham Knight.
Yeah.
It's just like the only
we've taken the whole place.
The only people that are left here conveniently are criminals, and you're Batman, so you fight them all.
Yeah. Maybe
Rhode Island. It's an island. I feel like you could kind of. Maybe it's too small. I think it's too small.
Rhode Island's pretty damn tiny. Our prison population is like, my gosh, I think
it's got to be tens of millions of people.
Yeah, it's massive. So.
The Upper Peninsula.
The Upper Peninsula.
Making Canada's problem.
Yeah, they'll all get killed by wild animals.
Yes, or they will freeze in snowbanks.
How long?
I think we're over time.
Yeah, we're over time.
Way over time.
Okay.
We'll see you guys on the Patreon.
Patreon.
Much love.
Much love. Bye.